Hi, Mick McQuaid here. I'd like to share with you how to do your capstone in LaTeX and Overleaf. And I have on the screen here Overleaf open in a web browser. And I would like to show you how to set it up. So I have a bunch of projects here, and they're named. You'll notice that they're named with the name of the student and the word capstone, which is actually how I want you to name yours. So that it's easy for me to distinguish them. It's difficult for me to tell with, for example, proposal here, and then I have to figure out who MV6145 is. That's kind of a drag. So so please name your capstones like this, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. There are sort of two ways to set this up. One is to just let me set it up for you. That's probably the easiest thing to do. You just email me and tell me you want to do a capstone with me, and presuming that I'm willing to go along, I set up a project here and you can access it. You'll get an email invitation to start a free Overleaf account and access it. Now you can just apply for an account and download the iSchool template from the iSchool's website, and that's another way to get started, and that's what I'm going to show you now. So I'm going to assume that you have established a free account on Overleaf, free student account on Overleaf, and you're ready to click the new project button, and you've downloaded the file from the iSchool's website, and it's taking a while. This is worrisome. There we go. Upload project. So you're going to select a zip file. So you're going to take the zip file that you got from the iSchool's website, ischooltemplate.zip. You don't have to open this. Overleaf will open it for you. You just select this zip file. And someday Overleaf opens it for you. And these are all the files in the zip file. And here is a pane where you can edit them, and here's a pane that will show you the rendered PDF result of your work. Right now it just shows error messages, and the error messages are because in the menu we have not changed the default compiler from PDF LaTeX to Lua LaTeX, so we must do that, and we should change this to 2021 if it's not already set to 2021. Or whatever is the most current thing. And then you might want to set your key bindings to none. Unless you're familiar with Vim or Emacs, you can change the key bindings to Vim or Emacs. You might want to change your editor theme. There are a lot to choose from. You may want to change your font size and font family and stuff like that. But for the most part, you can leave this stuff alone. I have spell check turned on. It's kind of annoying. I think actually I'm going to turn it off, because it highlights all the proper names as misspellings, and it's kind of a drag. But you may want to have it turned on when you're proofreading your report, so you don't do a lot of bad misspellings, a lot of really obvious misspellings. Okay, so it'll open, so it thinks that main.tex is the main file in this project, which it is, and so it opens main.tex. And you can see that it's a lot of gobbledygook in here. There's not a lot of stuff that you're going to want to edit in here. Because we've changed the compiler to Lua LaTeX, I can hit this recompile button, and I will see the boilerplate version of main.pdf as a result. And it's composed of all these files here sort of together. Form the main.pdf file, and it takes a long time to compile at first because it hasn't cached anything. So subsequent compilations will go much faster than this first one. So while we're waiting for that, I'm just going to go down here in the main.tex file to the first place where there's something that you actually want to change, which is the title page. So in this title page, we have the title of the project, and right now Overleaf thinks that the title of the project is minus 0.20 in. So let's change that. I'm going to say that this is Eric Cartman's Capstone. And now it'll appear that way in my menu. And this part, the title of the project, appears here, the title of the project, by student's name, and student's name is right here. So let's change those. Let's change the title of the project to let's change it to the effect of gamma rays on man in the moon marigolds. And there's an obscure historical reference for you. And then I have to have a title line that's got to be a short line. And for that, I'm going to say just the effect of L dots. And L dots is going to resolve to an ellipsis when I compile this again. It's going to compile as soon as I save the file, which I will after I put Eric Cartman's name in here. So I save the file, and now see the word recompile changes to compiling, and I get this little please wait symbol. And now the title has been changed and the author's name has been changed, and you can see it's a project proposal. So it's currently set up as a project proposal, and here are the committee members, and here's the copyright year. I've somehow missed the, oh, here it is, grant date. Yeah, I'm going to change this. Oops, I changed the whole thing. I'm going to change this to the date that little Eric Cartman expects to get his. So this month year here is going to change to December 2021 in a minute. And this is a proposal. So where does it say proposal? Yeah, right here, MS proposal true. So I'm going to leave this uncommented. And it's a project, not a thesis. So I'm going to leave this uncommented. And then there's this page. This is the signature page. So you have to get a signature on your proposal to get it approved. So after we do that, we're going to save this. There's a dedication page and an acknowledgments page. I'm just going to comment these out. You can put in a dedication if you want. But if you don't want to, you can just comment this all out. Or you can delete it for all I care. So I'm going to comment that out. Actually, I'm going to comment them both out. And then we come to the abstract, and the abstract is in a separate file. So here's the abstract file. So you're going to write an abstract in this file, and it'll be just included automatically. And then there's going to be an intro. There's an intro file, a related work file, a methodology file, somewhere there it is, and a timeline file, which is down here. And then these two files, the results file and the conclusions file, are actually part of the report, not the proposal. So I'm going to comment those out. And then there's the bibliography and appendices. And we'll see what we'll do about those later. For now, I'm just going to, now for some reason I didn't save the file after I did the, got rid of the acknowledgments, so it's not, it hasn't vanished. So let me make that vanish. Okay, so now that's gone. So now we have a table of contents next. A list of tables, there's only one table. A list of figures, there's only one figure. I just put these in for demonstration purposes. Then we have the introduction, the related work section, the methodology, and the timeline. And that's it for the proposal. And then the reference is the actual bibliography at the end here. And that's it for the proposal. Well, I guess we might have, well, we probably don't have appendices. Let's comment out the appendices. In the proposal, you're not going to have any code or anything, or any displays of screenshots or things like that. So you're probably not going to have any appendices for the proposal. So let's say we've commented all that out. We're all good to go. As soon as this stops trundling, I'm going to download this and change its name and get my signatures. So I'm going to say download PDF. And it's going to do its little animation thing. And then I've saved that on my local machine, and I'm going to change the name of it. It's currently called ericcartmancapstone.pdf. That's the default name, is the name of the title followed by .pdf. So I'm going to change that to ericcartmancapstoneproposal.pdf and send it to my committee members. And I'm going to keep a copy of that around, because now what I'm going to do is change this and make it my report. So to change it to a report, I'm going to comment out where it says proposal true, and I'm going to uncomment I'm going to comment out timeline, because you don't include that in the report because you're already done. And I'm going to uncomment the appendices, because maybe I have appendices. I'll just have two appendices. And then I save that, and then I've got the actual report. Now I want to go through the other sections of the report besides the abstract. Let me just say one word about the abstract. One word. I can't say one word. So in the proposal, the abstract should just say what you will do. In the report, the abstract should say what you will do and then what you did. So the abstract changes tense from future tense in the proposal to past tense in the report. So I want to make sure you know that. The introduction is going to tell what the problem is and why it's important and why your solution is beneficial. And then you're going to introduce your remaining sections, giving a brief overview of each. And then in the introduction, I've included a little bit of stuff here to demo doing different things. So first, I show how you do a citation. So this citation appears in parentheses because I accidentally hit the date on this. The date on this is a link. This date right here is a link to the actual bibliography, and I accidentally hit that when I was trying to highlight this. Silberschatz et al. 2005 comes from where it says here, Site P, Silberschatz 2005, which is a key in the bibliography. So we're going to take a look in the bibliography for a second here. And you're going to see that Silberschatz 2005 is the very first entry in the bibliography. So it's of type book, and after the type, the first thing that appears is the key. You get to decide what the key is. So if you want to add a reference, you need to add it in this BibTeX format. Now, for a lot of articles that you're going to get, and I have an example here, an article of my own. So here I've opened up the ACM Digital Library, and I've found a research article. Very good research article, by the way. It got an honorable mention at CHI. And I click on Export Citation, and this is the same symbol that's used in Google Scholar. Also, if you happen to get papers from Google Scholar, you'll see this same symbol. And you'll have a choice of export formats. And for me, the default comes up as BibTeX. I don't know if that'll be the case with you. And then when the citation is loaded, eventually, gosh, this is taking a long time. Usually it comes up immediately. I think it's because I'm recording and running Overleaf at the same time. Overleaf is an Electron app, I think, so it takes a lot of system resources. It's never going to load. Well, anyway, eventually this loads with a BibTeX formatted citation, and I can press this button here that looks like two pieces of paper, and that copies the reference, and then I can just paste it into the references.bib file. So that's one way of avoiding having to manually type in all this boring stuff. So you'll just have to take my word for it because it's taking too long. And then you can just paste it into here. I would have liked to have done that to demonstrate it, but I can't do that. Okay, so let's go back to the intro now. And in addition to cite P, which puts the citation in parentheses, we also have another directive, cite T, which puts it in the text. So if you're citing something at the beginning of a sentence, I'll usually say like Dumont et al. Wrote this interesting paper. And so I'll just say cite T, Dumont 2007 wrote this interesting paper. And then Dumont appears in the text and just the year appears in parentheses. And then we have figures. So this figure is actually a PNG file, which is right here. So you can upload PNG or JPEGs or whatever files, and then you can include them with this include graphics directive. And I've included it with a width equals 3.0 inches. So if you imagine that this is 8.5 inches across, this part of it is just 3 inches across. And I can put the height in here as well. I could put any bunch of comma separated parameters in here. And then you can see that its title, iSchool logo.png, is just the file name. And this is enclosed in a center directive. That's what has it centered in this way. I guess you would call that horizontal centering. I don't know. And then that is enclosed in a figure directive, and figures are floating. So this figure happens to be placed here. I've actually asked for it to be placed here with the letter H in square brackets, and I've secondarily asked it to be placed. If it can't be placed here, please place it at the top of the page. But LaTeX chooses where a figure is going to wind up. And then the figure also has a caption, which ends up appearing below it, and it has a label, and this label can be used to reference it. So instead of writing out figure 1, I want you to write figure and then ref fig iSchool logo, this label, and that will resolve to the numeral 1, and that's also a clickable link. And that's what all this stuff says. And then there's a table here. Another example is a table. The caption is on top of the table instead of below it. That's just a convention. And then the table is enclosed in another floating thing called a table. This table construct is a floating thing. I've said I want it here. Sometimes that won't work out, and I'll have to actually add a T or something for the top of the page. You're best off letting LaTeX determine where these things show up and putting labels in. Oh, I didn't put a label in here. Did I? Okay, well, I can put a label here. I'm just going to say label. And now I can refer to this table by that label. Then the table is enclosed in a center directive. That's what's got it centered on the page here. And then the table itself is done with the tabular environment. And that's a standard LaTeX environment for doing tables that are going to be less than a page long. There's a different environment if you're going to do tables that are more than a page long. And it has this very complicated syntax here. It has this, all this stuff here tells how the columns are laid out. So R means right. The first column is right justified. This column right here is right justified. The next column is centered. So you can't, because Fido and Fifi are the same length, you can't really tell, but they're centered. The next column is right justified. And the last column is a paragraph. And that P stands for paragraph, and it has to be followed by curly braces with the width of the paragraph in it, which in this case is 2 inches. So that's 2 inches right there. If you imagine that the whole thing is 8.5 inches wide, This is 2 inches. And the last column is automatically wrapped. And then we have the top rule, the mid rule, and the bottom rule. Those are these 3 lines here. And the top rule and the bottom rule are thicker than the mid rule. The mid rule goes after the header. The top and bottom rule obviously go at the top and bottom. And then the structure of the header is the stuff that's going to go in here, followed by an ampersand for each. An ampersand separates each column, and an ampersand separates each column here, and then the column ends with a double backslash. The double backslash means to end a line, and please use it sparingly. It should only be used in tables for the most part. Now this is very tedious to write out, so what I advise you to do if you have a big table is, if you have a small table you can do this, it's not too painful, but if you have a big table, go online and Google convert CSV to LaTeX Tabular, and you'll find that there are a lot of converters that will just automatically convert your CSV file into this syntax. Or the same thing for Excel, convert Excel to LaTeX Tabular. There are plenty of packages to do that. And then here are the, here's a bulleted list. So it starts with begin itemize and ends with end itemize. And each item, oh God, I keep forgetting to get rid of these. Those are unnecessary. They don't hurt anything, but they're just unnecessary clutter. So each bullet is the word item. You can actually change the bullet. So I could actually put in square brackets here, I could put another directive here. I'll just do that just to show you that that can be done. Oops. So I've said in square brackets that I want a mathematical symbol of a square. This is usually used to end proofs in mathematics. So that's why it's a math symbol. And see, now instead of a bullet, you have this open square there. So you can do things like that if you really want to, but I advise against it. I advise you to let LaTeX do the formatting, and you, as a matter of fact, that's what I'm going to say in just a second here. So here's a subsection. So we've seen a section already. The introduction is a section. You should use section headers and subsection headers and even subsection headers. So here's a subsection header, and that's section 1.1, subsection 1.1, and a subsection would be section 1.1.1. And then here we see a numbered list. So notice this is like the itemized list, and it has items, but the items resolve to numbers. And we have some advice here that you should use the sectioning commands instead of creating your own headings. You should try to let the paragraph formatting stand as it is rather than including a lot of commands in your text to create artificial line breaks. Concentrate on the content of your file and refer formatting questions to me, and just try not to play around with the format as much as you can. If you insist on playing around with LaTeX, you should at least read the not so short intro to LaTeX, because you will get lost very quickly. You should comment out some sections for the proposal and other sections for the report. And you can comment anything out with a %sign. I think I've been doing that already. Okay, and that's the end of the intro file. So it demonstrates a few different things. You might notice I've put this in a typewriter typeface. Oh wow, see, if I double click there, it goes to the same location in the code. That's nice. So I thought you had to click on this button to go to the PDF location in the code, but apparently if you double click on something, it'll do the same thing. But it doesn't always guess correctly what the location is, unfortunately. So I've put this in a verbatim directive. So that's \verb followed by 2 symbols that don't appear inside the inside of the whatever it is that you want to do. So I've chosen to use vertical bars, but you could use other symbols as long as they're a matching pair and they don't appear inside. Okay, so then the next file is the related work file, and I've put some examples in here. Let's take a look at that. So there are some more. Yeah, so this is one of the reasons why you want to use the same project for your capstone and your proposal and your report, because if you do a thorough literature review at first, you use that very much in the report. There isn't much of a change to that. Here's a citation of a website. So let's take a look at that, Brignall 2010 in the bibliography, because you're probably going to want to cite websites, and that's not that easy to do. You have to dig around to find out that a website is of type MISC. And so with type MISC, it'll accept a URL. And then if we look at the bibliography in here, you'll see Brignall, and then the URL is enclosed in here. And I notice this is sticking out in the margin. You can you can let it stick out in the margin. That's okay. I'm going to fix this so it doesn't by putting what's called an optional hyphen. That's a backslash followed by a hyphen. Wow, what happened to my camera? I'm giant. That was so weird. I don't know how long it's been that way. I just happened to notice it. So now it doesn't stick out. Now the optional hyphen has gone in there. But you don't have to do that. That's totally optional. Okay, so let's go back to the related work section. So we saw how to cite a website is to use the MISC type. And then I put a bunch of bibliographic items together in parentheses separated by commas, and I'm using an APA style file, so that changes those commas to semicolons in here, and it just lists them all out according to the APA style here. So if there are only two authors, it lists both authors, but if there are more than two, they're et al. Try to follow the author date format so that it's easy to tell what you're referring to. I think I've already said that. Here's some examples of equations. So if you do math and you know for some of the capstones, people include screenshots of equations, and it looks like a ransom note. It looks terrible. So instead, what you should do is do this. Enclose inline equations in $signs or displayed equations inside a begin end equation environment, and actually write out the equation. And if you don't know how, if this is all gobbledygook to you and you don't know how to do this, just go online and say convert equation, go to Google and say convert equation to LaTeX. And you'll find that there are plenty of converters that will allow you to do a what you see is what you get equation, and then it'll output that equation in LaTeX format, and you can just copy and paste it in here. Okay, so that's the end of the related work. I should mention at this point that the one of the reasons that this doesn't look like a ransom note is the typeface matches. The typeface for math here matches the typeface for text. So I'm using the Stix2 fonts here. There's a whole folder of these fonts here for math and for text, bold, italic, medium italic, regular semi-bold, and semi-bold italic. So you can get all kinds of effects if you really want them. Okay, so the next file is the methodology file. Here's where you summarize what you've done, but you don't say what the outcomes were. You say you did X, but you don't say what the result of that was until you get to the results file. If you want to include code fragments, I've shown how you do that here. You use the minted environment, begin minted and end minted, and then the name of the language. So here's an example that does Python. And if you do this, it'll be rendered like this. So the comments will come out in gray. I've got this set up a particular way so that the comments come out in gray, and some of the keywords and numbers and the strings are colored differently. You can do it differently if you want. If you really want to have a dark background, you can use these commands in the main.tex file in the preamble, and you can search for where I've put use minted style colorful, and you can substitute monokai for that. And if you don't like colorful or monokai, here are all the different possibilities. So here's the name and the output, the name and the output. So we have Manny, RRT, Pearl Doc, Borland, colorful. This is the one that I'm using. Monokai is an example of a dark one that some people like. And these are the programming languages. You can put any of these programming languages in. So if it doesn't include your programming language, I'll be very surprised. And if you want to include a file, so let's say you want to, instead of copying and pasting your code into these files, you want to just upload migrate_code.py, your file. You can say input minted curly brace Python and migrate_code.py. And I would put this in the appendix, and then you have an appendix of code without having to do a lot of copying and pasting. And if you want to include a line of code in the body of the document, you can say mint inline Python, import this, and you'll get an effect like this, where import this as keywords are rendered in color. And that's all that it says in this file. And then we have the results file. There's nothing in there. And the conclusion file, and all that has is some empty subsections for limitations, future work, and lessons learned, which is really important for you to include. So that pretty much does it for this project. I don't think there's anything else I really want to tell you. Once you get going, you'll find other features that may be of some interest or some use to you. But what I've told you should be enough to get you going. And feel free to ask me questions. And let me just thank you for your attention. And I look forward to seeing your great capstone. Bye.